Today is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. We're going to talk a little bit about the screen that we're looking at, but we'll do so after a quick video and an introduction on why we're here and where we're going. Thanks for tuning in, especially our live audience. Here we go. This is Phil Lane Jr. Welcome to the Digital World Town Hall meeting, where the physical world meets the digital world. And we actually take accountability and responsibility for our own lives as we get to move into this next generation and dispensation. Thank you for taking your time, especially those that are in our live audience. For those that are not aware, we will be focusing on general review of the last week's worth of work and focus and some of the things that are transpired or happening. And then we'll do Q&A, live Q&A, any topic, positive, negative, you name it. We're grateful for those co-hosts that are with us, especially Wally. We're grateful for the time and the effort and the energy and the many years to get to this point. As a private membership association, some of the things that we talk about may be forward-looking, but it's protected under this decentralized digital world, under this private membership association with the jurisdiction of the whole earth. There's been a lot of things that have happened, especially what you saw in that video where Phil Lane Jr., by the way, went through that video scripted, not at all. He literally spoke that by the word, and the movie was built around his word. But he talks about indigenously led technologies. And why would we talk about indigenously led technologies and then talk about secret combinations? Well, humanity has had an opportunity for different leaderships and different styles to basically rule and reign. And it's a time for that to shift, especially what we're seeing within different countries and the leadership and the fighting. And not only that, but the currency wars, the tariff wars, the trade wars, and then it ties into many other things as physical wars. So the secret combinations that basically are in private on the left and public on the right, they work through what's called project finance. And you're seeing a lot of that happening with what you're seeing with the USDA and some of the audits within the United States of America. But all they're uncovering is things that have happened for generations over time. I'm gonna go ahead and pause, or Wally, if you could find, we've got some new guests. I'm gonna go and find the noise that's coming out. I think it might be Terrence. Welcome, buddy. You guys are all welcome to talk just in a second here, if that's okay. So here we go. So we're gonna come back over here. No, it's popped out. So what we're talking about are secret combinations that basically through project finance, the IMF, the World Bank, and what's behind that are certain reserve banks that create money issuance. And the different monies work with different exchange systems. and they have different values, but it's based upon sacred combinations. Oil industry, healthcare industry, manufacturing industry, supply chain, shipping, whether we're talking about technology, media, health, it doesn't matter, but they all get into governments. Many have seen what Soros and others have done in different parts of the world, and what's happened to different, even some of the biggest and best and most stable countries have all been affected worldwide. So what we're talking about is how decentralized systems can really provide an alternative to that. We're not necessarily talking about blockchain. We're not necessarily talking about crypto, but we're talking about architectures, a decentralized architecture that can literally set humanity on the right path, especially for future generations. The goal is to find a nice balance right in the middle of government and freedom, where decentralization can actually help be a counterbalance through that. Some of the things that we've done in the past is helping to create policies. I'll share this video a little bit later on, but this is one of the things that I'd love for people to start digging into if you want to learn more. This is around how not just one government, but many governments can actually adopt decentralized technology. For those that have been following us for the last 15 years, particularly the last 2 years, we've met with 28 countries, 10 of which are actually looking to roll this technology, or actually some have already started. The technology is basically derived keys built off of private keys. What we're showing you here are private keys where an individual owns their own data and then has derived keys that tie to it, so machine learning and artificial intelligence can't follow them into the future. Very important. The goal is to connect the physical and digital worlds together through decentralization that really enables humanity. Some of the things we're going to talk about are these 5 points. One is an exchange. 2 are phones. For those that are not aware, we've built decentralized phones, many different versions. We were the first ones to do it, and we continue to do it. And it will enable not only Clear phones, but also Google phones or Apple phones to all be able to do the same things. Homes, which by the way, it's not 700 million in pre-orders, it's over 800 million now. Autos, and then community. And the community has a topic right now that's open around possible mergers and acquisitions. We'll briefly touch on that, but ultimately elements of it are still very, very infant. Even though we've already built a community, we've launched it, it wasn't decentralized. So some of the technologies we'll talk about will tie that together. What I would like to announce is a different look and feel as we stand up some of these systems for the digital world. So you'll see a continued maturing of the brand. So for instance, for those of you that were watching the video, this was actually the original brand. So you'll see it just slightly change as we introduce some new elements to it around the way. So we'll talk about digital world, we'll talk about native, we'll talk about how it actually enables other infrastructure and any kind of questions that you may have related to that. But one of the things that's actually transpired this week is a brand new brand that's going to bring forth a bunch of different new elements. And I'll go through some of those elements today. So there's governance, nations, councils, services, providers, developers, events, and then elements of what we call an exchange. There'll be pieces of that exchange that will continue to mature over time, but I'll go through 3 of these different pieces in a second. Here they are. So on the left, a centralized exchange known as what they call a CEX, a centralized exchange. This would be like Kraken or Coinbase or other centralized exchanges that have had a lot of problems, or maybe they're basically functioning as of today in a functional way. FTX is a good example of a centralized exchange. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. Why? Because really the architecture is off. People don't own their own assets. The exchange owns the assets, which is a different conversation, but one that we'll jump into in just a couple slides. A decentralized exchange within the digital world that basically enabled transfers of assets in real time with no government, with no delay, with no tax, with no tariff, with no banks, and literally enabling the future of humanity to stop the craziness around a swipe here with a Visa, MasterCard, Diners Club, with a push there with a Federal Wire, or maybe an ACH, or maybe even a Western Union type payment. And then an asset exchange that basically ties in gold, silver, and other precious metals with a digital receipt that ties this whole system together with what's called a Life app. Well, for those of you that have not used the Life app, we'll touch on that in just a second. One of the exchanges we plan on standing up is a Utah Stock Exchange, primarily because some of the laws that Utah has enabled, not just recently within the last couple months, which they have, but from the inception of the state of Utah. The state of Utah within its constitution has recognized currency as gold and silver, just like the Constitution of the United States of America. We'll touch on that again. So these are a couple of the different countries that we're currently working with out of the ones that we actually met with, the 28 plus that we met with. As a matter of fact, for some of you that may be new, I'll drop out of this and I'll navigate over and show you some of those different nations. So you can see in phase one, we went through the Pacific, which is really represented as almost half of the earth. So literally Vanuatu, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Rarotonga, Aitutaki, the Kingdom of Hawaii, and many others that we were able to meet with, help them to recognize the importance of their native roots and how technology linked with decentralized systems can be the future for them and for humanity. We'll talk a little bit about that, but in a phased approach. So phase one in the Pacific, phase two, we won't dig into the details of, but most of you already know what phase three is, which is the BRICS-based countries, which before COVID, we actually spent between a week to a month in each one of these countries, from Russia to China to India to Saudi Arabia to many parts, a couple different pieces within Africa. But we welcome the opportunity for especially the indigenous communities to be able to be a part of the future, and the future adopting it at the beginning. One of the things that's interesting that's happening right now, especially in the United States of America, for the last 5 months, we've seen really the administration finally embracing crypto or cryptography, or cryptography is just crypto, crypto is short for cryptography, so to speak, but blockchain-based systems. We'll go ahead and see what other noise we got here. Welcome. Thanks for joining. You're welcome to unmute if you've got any questions. So what I was tying at was the United States of America is finally starting to build legislation that would be positive for not only crypto assets, but blockchain-based systems, namely decentralized systems for the future of humanity. This last week, one of the things that happened is actually a lawsuit against Coinbase. Go figure. For the last, I don't know, a couple months now, we've had some interesting inroads with them, and then also with Bank of America, whole nother topic. But one of the interesting things that happened this last week was Coinbase basically was sued, not by a company, not by an individual, but by a state in the United States of America. The particular state is the state of Oregon. Oregon basically comes out, as a matter of fact, I'll pull up an example real fast and we'll read it together. I hope those of you that actually value or are okay with reading, because this is one of the fastest ways to get content, especially on a meeting like this. So here we go.
Overview. On April 18, 2025, Cohen Milstein and Keller Rohrbach, on behalf of the Attorney General for the State of Oregon, filed an enforcement action against Coinbase Global, Inc. and Coinbase, one of the largest cryptocurrency trading platforms in the United States, for violating Oregon securities law. The action alleges that Coinbase illegally solicits and facilitates the sale of unregistered securities in the form of numerous cryptocurrencies to Oregon residents while reaping millions of dollars in fees from these sales. According to the complaint, the failure to register these securities has deprived Oregonians of important disclosures and protections regarding these highly speculative investments, which are vulnerable to pump and dump schemes and fraud, causing Oregonians to incur substantial losses. The Attorney General brings this action on behalf of Oregon investors harmed by Coinbase's unlawful conduct, and to protect Oregon investors from further harm. Case background. Since 2012, Coinbase has operated its trading platform through which users, including Oregon customers, can buy and sell crypto assets. Indeed, Coinbase is the largest crypto asset trading platform, or crypto exchange, in the United States and has serviced over 108 million customers, accounting for billions of dollars in daily trading volume. The crypto securities sold on Coinbase's platform are not registered with either the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, or the Oregon Department of Consumer and Business Services, DCBS, hindering investors' ability to perform due diligence on their investments. While investors frequently incur devastating losses on these unregistered securities, Coinbase continues to profit on every sale of these securities on its platform. The Attorney General began investigating Coinbase's conduct in 2022. The SEC subsequently brought an enforcement action against Coinbase under federal law, which the SEC filed on or about June 6, 2023. In April 2024, New York federal court denied Coinbase's motion to dismiss, holding that the SEC adequately alleged that the crypto assets at issue in the SEC complaint were securities. Nonetheless, on or about February 27, 2025, the SEC and Coinbase jointly stipulated to the dismissal, with prejudice, of the SEC's claims against Coinbase. In so doing, the SEC stated that its decision to dismiss the enforcement action was not based on any assessment of the merits of the claims alleged in the action. That move came just weeks after the SEC reassigned its head litigator, who had overseen the Coinbase case and the agency's other crypto-related enforcement efforts, to its IT department. And earlier this month, former crypto lobbyist Paul Atkins was confirmed to serve as the SEC's new chairman. The Attorney General now brings this enforcement action under Oregon state law arising from the unlawful sale to Oregonians of the crypto securities at issue in the SEC's complaint, as well as other unregistered crypto securities sold on Coinbase. The Attorney General seeks, among other things, a fine of $20,000 for each of Coinbase's violations of the Oregon securities law, disgorgement of profits Coinbase derived from the sale of unregistered crypto securities to Oregonians, and an award of restitution and/or damages on behalf of Oregonians harmed by Coinbase's violations.
Now, this is actually posted on the legal firm that actually made the claim. So we'll come back to this over time, but I want to point out what this really means. It is an opportunity for the world to really understand a whole new element. And so think about it this way. We have first time in like 4 or 5 years where Ripple or XRP has basically been free of any kind of entanglement, which I believe it was one of the best marketing ploys for them to be able to distance themselves from the United States government and then go do deals with other countries, but at the same time be able to drive a marketing campaign through a lawsuit. Think about that. So when you look at Ripple, Ripple has over a $200 billion valuation or market cap. And yet the technology that they have, especially when you look at the digital world's technology, it's probably 15, maybe 20% of the technology that we'll review and have within the digital world, as well as some of the clear companies that have donated technology, hundreds and millions of lines of code of software. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and read this because it's a very important point to understand, at least for some of the listeners, as well as the audience.
Oregon's Coinbase lawsuit, a wake-up call. In April 2025, the state of Oregon filed a lawsuit against Coinbase, reigniting debates about whether digital assets like XRP, Solana, and Cardano are securities. Despite the SEC backing off earlier this year, Oregon stepped forward, labeling over 30 crypto tokens as unregistered securities under state law. For many, this seems like another regulatory tug of war, but for those paying attention, it's much more significant. This lawsuit is a wake-up call, not just for investors, exchanges, and humanity itself. The real stakes, not just crypto, but control. On the surface, Oregon's complaint is regulatory, focusing on investor protections, state law compliance, exchange oversight, but beneath the surface, it's about control. The established financial structure, steeped in bureaucracy and centralization, fears decentralization, transparency, loss of control over the systems that often enslave more than empower. If we continue to let centralized regulators dictate what assets you're allowed to own, what systems you can use, what rights you may exercise, we move toward a digitally enforced form of slavery, replacing natural freedoms with conditional permissions. Centralized digital ID systems could be weaponized against those they claim to protect. The digital world, a peaceful exit from a broken system. The digital world steps in, not as rebellion, but as a visionary alternative, founded on sovereignty and digital jurisdiction, private membership, self-sovereign identity, decentralized trust. It operates independently from centralized regulators and offers the freedom to transact, invest, and grow in alignment with natural law, private property, and human liberty. Where Oregon sees securities, the digital world sees DGOLD, digital receipts backed by physical gold, accessible to any member, digital corporations, DCORPs, formed under Reg D compliance, with transparent ownership, reputation scores, verified through decentralized trust, not credit surveillance. Lawsuits highlight the need for change. The Oregon case shows why decentralized systems are not just useful, they are necessary. This lawsuit demonstrates how access to the future can be blocked by the misalligned present. This isn't just about XRP, it's about everyone's right to transact, invest, and build. When a single state can wield outdated laws against innovation, the system's cracks become impossible to ignore. The centralized financial world is an aging empire, still powerful, but fading among those who are building new ways to live, work, and connect. This is the call. The Deal Flow Show is the answer. Out of crisis, clarity, and opportunity. The Deal Flow Show, built within the digital world, is a gateway for all. Non-accredited members vote, engage, and grow wealth through stable, real-world assets like digital gold. Accredited investors participate in compliant offerings, access equity, and support top projects governed publicly by members within the digital world's jurisdiction. This is not about evading the law. It's about using better law, built to protect people, not legacy systems. A fork in the road. Humanity faces a choice: centralized path, deeper dependence on corporate state digital systems that monitor, limit, and enslave. Decentralized path, freedom, truth, transparency, and real association as members, builders, and stakeholders. This lawsuit is more than a regulatory move. It's a signpost. Either we reclaim our digital sovereignty, or we surrender our natural rights to systems built to control. The digital world is building a path forward. Join it, not just to invest, but to liberate.
So it's important for you to understand what this really means. This is not just the next generation. This is going to create a conflict between the states and the federal government as it relates to the clarity of crypto in the future. I would argue, or at least plead with you, to back up and try and understand what was the original intent with Bitcoin. In 2008, 2009, when it was actually released, what was the intent with it? What was the purpose of it? If you're not muted, if you could, that'd be greatly appreciated. Or go ahead. Somebody have a question? Please feel free. Did somebody have a question or a comment? So Bitcoin was released with the intent to actually free humanity, not just with the ability to transact, but also from privacy. And what I would argue that a decade later, well, 15 years later, we're looking at it from a standpoint of, I'm not going to have to mute this. You're welcome to jump back on once you can. But the point that I'm trying to make is Bitcoin was supposed to be able to help humanity transact as well as keep identities private. With the Lightning Network for the 4 countries that rolled out Bitcoin, it literally centralized decentralization as Bitcoin was intended to use. But when we look at it that's from an identity standpoint. And then when we look at it from a speed standpoint, it's very, very slow. And what I mean is it's one of the slowest literally abilities to actually get an asset from one to another. There's a lot of other technologies that are out there in the world that go a lot faster than what that does. Here's an example. So an average of Visa transactions is 14 billion per day over a 24-hour period. And Bitcoin costs about $2,400 in the US dollar equivalent to transact that. And then it takes about, on average, about 10 minutes to be able to consummate, full consummate. That's full settlement, so it can't be stopped. Ethereum is more expensive, so 26 million compared to, what are we looking at here? We'll let this refresh here. So 3 minutes. So it's faster than the 10 minutes, but still, and even some of the modifications that they made, you can pay gas, so you can pay money, but it still can't go with the seconds of 3 to 5 seconds full settlement. Now, neither does Visa. Visa actually fully settles within days. When we talk about the digital world and some of the things that we'll dig into, you'll start understanding the importance of speed and privacy combined together creates the formula for really the future. So when we're going through these types of things, that's an important element of what we just went through. So I'm going to come back to these different countries that are adopting it and then dig into how they adopt it. So they go through a portal. So a portal for each country that's unique to each country based upon the types of things that they want to do for their citizens or their nationals within their country around identity, health, voting, etc. And then there's a Life app that we all use. So the individual can use a Life app, one Life app per person or per phone. That's not saying that people can't go and grab a wagon full of phones and try and build identities, multiple identities. But what we'll find is the actual proof of their identity or proof of their life will be watered down if they do it with multiple devices. So that's one of the important changes within the digital world. It's based upon the individual providing proof of life with a different Life app. For instance, this is American Life, Mexican Life, Independent Life, different conversation, Texan Life, Clear Life, and there's another application called Digital Life, which ties in namely to the digital world and the exchange that ties therein. When we look at some of the elements of the exchanges, it's not only who you are, how you license or permit or certify, or how you maybe have a dispute to resolve it, or how you get maybe a vehicle registered or a license plate. Here's an example of a license plate for those that are actually watching online. So you can see an example of a plate here. So this is a plate with a cryptographic key where an officer can actually just scan it. They have to physically go up to the car, not the cameras that are on the sides of the roads that profile everything else. But the officer could actually come up, or anyone, and see if the car's stolen, see if it's insured, see if it's financed, see if it's licensed, see if it's registered. They could even see the registration, but a private version of it. And they can even see the owners and the drivers, but private versions of them. They can request to be able to see more information about them, but the owner or the drivers have to be able to disclose that if they want to. So it's not only an interface that does transactions and exchanges and assets, whether it's fiat assets, banks, investments, savings, but it ties to other digital assets that will tie to the exchange. Here's a couple of them. For those of you who've never heard of DBTC, you'll see a future where Bitcoin, what we talked about, can actually be realized in real time. So no delays, no fees, no taxes, no taxation, I should say, no tariffs, the ability for no governments or no banks to control it, but the individual controls it. Their identity is truly private with derived keys so that artificial learning and machine and AI basically can't follow them. It's not only a matter of do we stick the Lightning Network in it and basically track everyone, but it's actually the opposite of that. And it's not just DBTC to BTC or to native or to clear or to Dala, which is the currency of the Hawaiian Kingdom before the United States currency was basically forced on them as what's now known as USD. And there's a difference between USD versus dollars, etc. But DUSD is a digital receipt of that. So DUSD may be able to transfer into how you pay for your homes or your cars or your bikes or rides or maybe other assets that just exchange. We'll talk a lot about different countries and how they adopt futuristic exchanges that tie together. Instead of a interbanking system globally for the banks that's separate from a stock system that really drives economic growth and value for many. In my opinion, the United States of America stock exchanges and the systems, not just in the US, but how they work cross-border, for instance, over into the London or Frankfurt exchange or other exchanges. Where there's mystery, there's margin. And where there's margin, there's opportunity also for naked puts or naked shorts or naked calls. And when there's naked environments tied from country to country, this is basically where someone's betting that something's going to go down, but do they really own that asset? I would argue that a lot of the different owners, namely BlackRock, Backstreet, Vanguard, that's how they actually got into a lot of these places. They would literally say that they had assets. They would gamble on the downside. And when it goes down, they would always win, because they didn't have any skin in the game or risk. But if countries or standards can actually adopt the combination of the financial system tied into really how we all identify ourselves, but with the individual identifying themselves first, it's very, very powerful. Now, many people might say, you know, I haven't really heard of this thing called the digital world. And I haven't really heard of any of the assets or companies, whether they're the Clear companies, you know, Clear Cellular, Clear Health, Clear Finance, Clear Center, Clear United. They all do different things that basically focus on decentralized systems that enable the digital world, but a lot of folks haven't seen it. What I would look at on the bottom right over here is, yes, last year there was only about 18 million transactions. When you compare that to things like Bitcoin, 166 million, or Ethereum, 316 million, I would say that these environments down here, they're not playing the transaction game. I would argue that over in this environment, everyone's looking at transaction and volume and tying market cap to it. It has nothing to do with it. It doesn't even have to do with utility. It has to do with how we as humans actually can operate and live our lives. So imagine an exchange where not only the currencies, the equities, and the commodities can be transferred, but the future systems can basically be released. I'm going to stop here before I jump into these next parts. Does anybody have any questions or comments or feedback or just observations or anything that you'd like to review? I know everybody's all muted. Thoughts, comments, feedback? Does the unmute work? I went and I muted all, but I wonder if I have to ask to unmute. Okay, I can actually do it.
Mayor, just curious, you mentioned that the speed of transaction for BTC is slow. Has the speed caught up with the capacity, meaning just has the speed caught up to be able to do global transactions, to be on par with the Visas of the world?
No, as a matter of fact, visas, they transfer. I could run down back through this slide deck. It's way down here, but we'll go ahead and jump back down to the slide. So
That's what I'm not able to see the presentation, but maybe it's just me.
is that an issue with other visitors online?
I can see the presentation. You can try and click on Michael's screen. That might work. Depends if you're on a desktop or phone.
Okay, I'm on mobile. Let me try desktop.
There's an
Okay,
application
go
you
ahead.
can download for mobile for this, but you can also follow along live on Twitter or on Facebook or X, and then also on YouTube as well as LinkedIn. So your question is based around speeds. So when we look at the speeds right now, you basically have Bitcoin. The blocks get built on, but for full settlement, it takes about 10 minutes. Say again? You still with me? You guys still with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna shut some stuff down here real fast.
You're cutting out once in a while, Michael, and you're freezing once in a while.
Okay, thanks for the heads up. Hopefully that helps us a little bit better there. So basically, Bitcoin has not gotten any faster. If anything, it's gotten slower. When they layer on the Lightning Network, you basically have identity that's not obfuscated. So the 4 countries that have rolled it out have basically violated privacy, especially with things like Chainlink, and AI can do so much more than some of the Chainlink systems. But there's real issues with speed as well as with identity obfuscation or privacy. So it hasn't gotten better, it's gotten worse. So I hope that answers your question, and I'll go ahead and jump back up here. Other questions before I jump back into it?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
So do you consider Bitcoin first truly decentralized? And then also, are there any other public blockchains that you consider decentralized, and then I guess third part is digital world truly decentralized, and how might it be different than Bitcoin or other blockchains?
Great questions. When we look at the roots of really, I'm going to add,
Meetsuckermeet.com/clear.
There's 2 parts to that. I'm going to try and answer just one with an organization called Clear Center. Clear Center builds the operating system for ClearOS Server, which basically was deployed around the world. So it looks something like this. It's a web interface. It basically is it's a rewrite of Red Hat Enterprise Linux that gives the ability for a web interface as well as users to manage their system with a marketplace. There was about 450,000 deployments around the world. Currently, there's about 263 that we look at. And when you look at the ability for deployment or mass deployment, within that marketplace, there's the ability to deploy what's called a validator and a storage application that turn these things into actual nodes. And anybody can run them, but there's mass global distribution, 150 different plus countries, 86 languages, multiple apps, a long history, well over 17 years in development. But what that creates is a framework that is similar to size, if anything, 10 times the size of even the Ethereum network. But in the end, really the ability for any chain to be distributed or decentralized comes down to people wanting to actually run nodes. And what's the value, what's the benefit, what's the feature of being able to run those nodes is really what it comes down to. And when we look at these types of systems, so for instance, I'm gonna go over to, let's see if I can just go to ClearStore. If I come down to the bottom of ClearStore and I look at different nodes, I'm actually gonna search, there's a home node that I wanna pull up. So imagine if you put this device in your home and it protected your home, but it also provided storage that you can actually provide other environments. So if you had the ability to not only store your own data, photos, calendar, contacts, but also pieces or sharded pieces of other environments.
We lost you, Michael.
Which, by the way that it works is you have a sharded based environment that gives you the ability to take data and really own it. So only your encryption key can get the data back. So if you can actually run a device like this in your home, as well as provide it for others to be able to run in their homes, that's one of the benefits. So it takes the weaknesses around speed and costs and privacy and literally enables a network for the future to be able to be deployed. Now, I believe that Bitcoin is the best digital store of value that humanity has today, with over $2 trillion worth of value that has been exchanged into it, namely through not the hashing rates, not the asynchronous miners, it's got nothing to do with that. That's a gamification way on how the actual Bitcoins are given to the world to get the miners to do some of the things we're talking about. They're not doing storage, they're not doing real-time validations, but they are providing consensus and validation. So is it a protocol that is here to stay? Absolutely. Do we look at it like a storage-based protocol? We do, because it can't be transferred in real time, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. That just means it's a form of storage that could be like a savings type account. So I hope that answers your questions and makes a little bit of sense to you. Does it? Any follow on there? Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, that makes sense. Specifically with Ethereum and other blockchains, though, I mean, you were looking at some of the differences, I guess, between Clear and then maybe some Ethereum and some of these other blockchains. But can you explain that again a little bit more, leaving out Bitcoin, because I agree, kind of a separate issue.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll actually jump to where we started, which is here. So this is actually a comparison chart that was done from a university, a brilliant team of individuals at a university in Australia. And it breaks into three components. One that is permission chained, which we won't get into. Another, which is basically non-blockchain systems, which is like the banking system. And then permissionless chains. So you can see Bitcoin, you can see Binance, which is basically an Ethereum fork. You can see the digital world, you can see Litecoin, Solana, Stellar, Ripple. And then you can compare kind of how they rank with one another's from this third-party perspective. And when we back up, what are we really talking about within the digital world? We're looking at some categories that maybe aren't even being seen by other chains. Now, I know that there's folks that are working on some of this, but what we're talking about is key management and identity management that are at the core. So it starts with these things and then builds from there. So if you focus on the individual and how they actually own their own keys, they own their own identity, kind of like what we talked about here, where someone gets keys and then there's keys that are derived keys for everything that you do. So you don't actually have machine learning or artificial intelligence following you. That is really the difference from the digital world from any other chain that's out there. Does that make sense and answer your question?
Yeah, sort of a little on the technical side, which I'm not a developer or anything like that, but yeah, I'm getting the picture. So thanks.
Okay, all good. And thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Any other questions before I jump back into it? Thoughts, comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What you're saying is the key and all the components are compatible with all of the other chains. It just works across all the chains. It's all compatible.
That's what the exchange will actually enable. So when we talk about some of these exchange environments that I was just showing you, this is what they'll actually enable, is the ability for, and I'm actually going to grab this chart right here. So imagine the future of exchanges, one that is a centralized exchange, one that is a decentralized exchange, and one that is an asset exchange natively tied to gold, silver, and precious metals that actually physically are stored and one-to-one back with a digital receipt. So imagine all of these structures coming together in a new type of ecosystem that is actually managed by the individual, and the individual also has the ability to log into their own financial system, whether it's checking, money market, accounting, investments, maybe it's Charles Schwab, maybe it's Fidelity, etc. But they can basically have one view of all of it, and they own their own assets. And then from there, you can do things like financial planning and asset management. So if an individual passes away, how does that move on instead of going to the States? Hundreds of millions of dollars every single year go to each state within the United States of America. I'm sure there's outliers, 5% of them that don't get hundreds of millions, that just get millions. But the point is that humans live in these jurisdictions and they spend their life accumulating assets. Maybe it's land, maybe it's home, maybe it's other things. But when they pass away, they don't document it or manage it. Why? Because centralized systems literally naturally take those assets from them in certain circumstances. So I'll go through, let's jump to other questions or thoughts before I move on. By the way, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, Michael, is there gonna come a time where I can take, my government pension or my pension from the company I retired from and send it straight into, somewhere in the digital world so that I don't have to go through my bank?
Yeah.
And then I can go and purchase whatever asset I want, what gold, silver, whatever I want.
Super question. And when you look at it, what we just reviewed, this centralized exchange or this, here, I'm going to pull some things out, show some of our, you'll see this start popping out in the future. We can't just spell it out all day, but basically there's a gold exchange. Imagine because for instance, right now, remember back when we would actually get paid with checks and
Yes.
then we would deposit them in a bank, like physical checks. And then remember the day when we could actually take a picture of the check and deposit it that way, so we didn't actually have to go to the bank. And remember the day when we could actually do ACH, so we use an automatic clearinghouse or some form of payment. When an employer or a pension would actually make a payment, it would go to a particular account. Well, just change that account and drop it right into physical gold. Literally. Imagine physical gold that actually, for instance, I know you're in Canada. Let's say that behind that was purchasing Canadian maple leaf coins. Or maybe it's gold eagle coins in America, which are looked at as tender, legal tender or currency. And then if you have those, by the way, legal tender doesn't fall under the tariff environment. I won't go into that, but there's a whole nother level there. So if you actually got your pension sent to a gold exchange and you got a digital receipt for it, imagine if, for instance, right now what happens is your pension is sent to the Canadian dollar account within a bank, which gradually goes down, right?
Correct.
But most, like even the last, 30 days, 60 days, gold has gone basically from $3,100 an ounce to $3,300 and some change an ounce. I won't go into the details, but it's basically appreciated. So instead of currency that's made by man that has continued to be printed, I don't care what country it's in, and then gold or silver that basically goes up or appreciates, you can actually get direct deposited from your pension or from your employer, which I think is another form of slavery. But if you can basically get the value that you've created within life put right into precious metals, then you can convert into other assets. Now, the real question is, what are these assets and what is the value, and are they real, and can they really actually start managing our lives that we can trust, not just a document is sent to an institution and funds are locked up for who knows how long, maybe in perpetuity, or say you've worked your life on, let's say maybe a home that you've worked to pay off, and then the next thing you know is you're at a stoplight and a bike hits your car. Whether you hit it or it hits you, there's liability. What happens when asset protection connects with governmental controls that ties to programmable money that can be seized like that? And you may think, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about because there isn't really programmable money. But that, especially in the United States of America, has actually been pushed into law, 2 or 3 years ago. So I hope I've answered your question, maybe in an indirect way, but other thoughts?
That's perfect.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, that's perfect. You answered my question. Thank you.
Other thought, thank you, Danielle. Other thoughts or comments or feedback or topics you want me to jump into before we keep going?
I have a question. As far as speed, infrastructure for bandwidth, because I know with the Web 2 and Web 3, Web 3 takes a lot of data being pushed through. So just like we couldn't have cloud until we had bandwidth for cloud, and so Web 3 is just another level of data requirement. So do you think, as far as the world is, are we there yet with infrastructure for high speed capacity, bandwidth capacity to facilitate a digital world, like through digital?
From a bandwidth standpoint, I think we got there about 8 years ago. And I think that G4 or 4G was the way to be able to get there. That's more than fast enough. And I would actually ask you, by the way, it's nice to meet you. I don't know your name, and that's okay. But I would ask you, are you on a Apple phone, a Clear phone, or a Google phone? Or what kind of phone do you use?
I'm on an Apple phone.
Would you do me a favor and download in the Apple Store an application called Hawaiian Life?
Hawaiian Life, okay.
And I'm going to show you a perfect example. Oh, no. Okay, so you're not on a computer, you're on the phone, the same one. That's not going to work. I was going to do an example. Are you able to log in on a computer by chance?
Yeah, I'm on the YouTube one, so I can just log off here and I'm on the YouTube one, but then
yeah, so what I would ask you to do is to log in on a computer to this meeting. And I'm going to show you a perfect example. Yeah, you're listening to it. And then we'll come back to you. And after you download Hawaiian Life on your phone, we're actually going to transfer you Hawaiian Dala in real time. And I'm going to show you exactly what you're asking. The speed, the bandwidth, like the usability, the experience. So if you could do that, that would be greatly appreciated. So you're going to log off the phone, log onto your PC, download Hawaiian Life on your phone, and then come back and tell us when you're ready, okay? Thank you.
Got it.
Other questions or thoughts? Comments, feedback? Okay, we will jump back to the presentation. So I hope this is making sense, especially when we talk about these digital assets and how exchanges of the future can actually enable the individual to truly own their own identity and data, specifically based upon who they are. So next, we're going to talk about a couple different legislation-based actions within the digital world. So this is what's called the Communication Protection Act. It's basically how can we as humans come together, just like how the United States was created and the Declaration of Independence and then the Constitution and then the Bill of Rights and all of these important pieces and then legislation and then, articles and just different abilities for people to actually work together to communicate. And then you see it in other types of what we call private membership associations. The legal environment with the bar association is a good example. It's a private secret combination that basically can do what they want to do within their jurisdiction of the bar association. The driver's licenses work off of that as well. The medical associations work off that as well. There's many different organizations, even the systems behind judiciaries. So I won't go through the details of that. The Jobs Act is something that is directly related to today's conversation, primarily because it ties to what happened with Oregon and Coinbase and with the SEC and Ripple. The Jobs Act was created by what we call the godfather of the Jobs Act. His name is David Wield, a wonderful man. About 7 years ago, maybe a little longer, he flew out to Utah and he was told that he needed to meet us. He spent a day and then he spent the night, and then he was supposed to fly out, but he ended up spending another day. And when he came in for the meeting, this is David Wild, he said, I've slept on this and I think this is the best business I've ever bumped into in my life. And all we were doing at that time was building out the clear companies to enable the digital world. This has taken 15 plus years already. And we've kept in touch with him, but we really understand the intent of the Jobs Act for the United States of America and how the digital world has adopted this Jobs Act as a structure, whether it's A+, CF, Reg D, or Reg S. The primary focus one that we're talking about is a D Corp that uses a Reg D offering. And the Reg D offering basically enables the ability for something like, and many others, by the way, welcome back, Tiff. Imagine the ability for, let's say Shark Tank has the ability to actually allow people to vote in real time and then maybe even invest. And two different archetypes, one that's accredited investors and one that's non-accredited investors. What we're showing you here is some new systems. This is from a technology standpoint. I'm going to come back to that last topic. But imagine the systems. We've actually lit up a main net as well as a system that is not a main net, but actually a test net or a custom environment. So these are all new systems that are standing up, activating. Very important. This ties to some of the liquidity pools and other elements that will actually enable some of the exchanges. This is how they will actually work with building transactions. But these are from a manual standpoint. What we went through was this Coinbase lawsuit and a wake-up call. What we're going to go through next is how the digital world can create a jurisdiction using the D Corp and a Reg D offering to create a jurisdiction that is totally sovereign, private, and for the individual for future generations. I'm going to go ahead and read this to you real fast. It's here.
The digital world, a jurisdiction of sovereignty and innovation. In a time when governments can sue exchanges for listing decentralized tokens and regulatory bodies struggle to define what a security is, a new kind of jurisdiction has emerged, not on land, but online. It's called the digital world, and it represents a radical but lawful rethinking of what a jurisdiction can be, who controls it, and who it truly serves. This is not science fiction. It's the next evolution of law, value, and identity, built for freedom-minded individuals who refuse to surrender their rights to centralized systems that have forgotten their purpose. Why we need a new jurisdiction. Traditional jurisdictions are limited by borders and driven by bureaucracies. They often fail to keep up with technological change, let alone support innovation without suppressing it first. Lawsuits like the one recently filed by Oregon against Coinbase show us that legacy governments are unprepared to deal with the rise of decentralized finance, identity, and economies. The risk? Those in power may tighten their grip, redefining digital ownership, access, and even identity in their image. But what if we could build a system from the ground up, where laws serve the people, not institutions? Where is participation voluntary and verified? Where value is created by contribution, and assets are backed by truth? That's what the digital world was created to be, a jurisdiction rooted in natural law and private membership. The digital world isn't a government, it's a sovereign digital jurisdiction founded on the principles of natural law, self-sovereignty, and private membership. Think of it like an opt-in society, a private membership association, PMA that respects your rights, your data, and your value. Key principles include self-sovereign identity. You control your identity. No one can seize it or modify it without your consent. Digital asset law. Assets are not governed by legacy definitions, but by proof of life, proof of value, proof of ownership, and real-world backing. Private governance. Rules are not imposed by force but agreed to by members. These include compliance with Reg D offerings, investor protections, and transparency protocols. Real-world anchors. Assets like DGOLD, digital gold receipts, digital homes, and DCORP equity are tied to real, tangible value. This is a jurisdiction that you choose, not one you're born into. Innovation without chains. While centralized jurisdictions like Oregon fight over definitions and control, the digital digital world empowers entrepreneurs, investors, and citizens to build the future now. With digital incorporation tools, anyone can form a DCORP, digital corporation, and issue shares or tokens with built-in compliance. Decentralized reputation. Trust is not bought, it's earned and proven, then tracked through a decentralized reputation system. Transparent ownership. Every asset, vote, and transaction can be traced, validated, and audited, with full member rights intact. In this system, innovation isn't just it's celebrated, and it's done lawfully, under internationally recognized frameworks such as the U.S. Jobs Act and Reg D. A peaceful revolution of systems. The digital does not seek to overthrow nations. It seeks to complement and transcend their updated systems. It offers a digital space where people own their data, investors has opportunities without institutional gatekeepers, families can store their wealth in precious metals, not manipulated fiat. Businesses can raise capital without being forced through centralized choke points. Identity is a right, not a service you pay for. It's not anti-government, it's pro-freedom. And in this new space, freedom is programmable. The consequences of doing nothing. The choice is not just digital versus analog. It's freedom versus control. If we do nothing, centralized systems will continue to digitize everything for us, but not with us. Our assets, our identities, our rights, all will be abstracted, monetized, and regulated into oblivion. But if we act, if we build and live within the digital world, we reclaim our agency. We can create, invest, trade, and grow without fear. We can protect our rights and pass on real wealth, not digital illusions, to future generations. The time to migrate is now. The door is open. The infrastructure is ready. The world is watching. The digital world is the jurisdiction of the future because it's rooted in the truth of who we are. Join it, build in it, share it, not as a reaction, but as a new covenant between people, purpose, and prosperity.
Does anybody have any thoughts on what we just read? Feedback?
Hey, Michael, I just want to go back to, that was great, by the way. The screens that you showed us before that looked like the back end. And I guess, so you understand, I'm thinking from that other layer perspective, from the Hyperledger layer and how it ties together with the CEXs. And then, because obviously I'm in this parallel world, right, between these two layers. So I see how it ties together completely. I want to talk about citizenship because Tuvalu, if we go back to Tuvalu, how Australia had that unification between their citizenship and obviously they adopted this ecosystem, correct? So they would be able to secure their citizenship, including all of their digital data, and then it kind of ties into this ecosystem which we're in now.
That's correct.
Is that?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So when you see the physical and digital elements coming together with laws that they create together, for instance, in the state of Wyoming was the first state to adopt the Decentralized Autonomous Organization law or legislation, which is known as DAOs. And then Utah followed, and then UAE, at least a jurisdiction in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, basically followed. You'll see other countries that will understand, oh, that's just providing privacy. And then, oh, it's providing voting. Oh, it's providing shareholder governance. Oh, and when they start understanding that technology can actually free us instead of enslaving us, I believe that more countries will actually start using technology in a way that is really decentralized. Like a lot of these countries today are focusing on what's called CBDCs or centralized bank digital currency. And that is the opposite.
Okay, that's CBD. I know that there's talk about CBDCs at a wholesale level, which is on the other layer that I'm in. I know not in the USA, I don't think, but here in Australia there could potentially be, which I think is the issue with the tariff, which I know that we don't want to go into, but that's like the other layer where we're trying to solve these bigger problems. So yeah.
I see a time when the actual different systems. So for instance, when we pop up this interface here, which we've gone back to a couple times, when these systems, these exchanges come together and they have the ability to pair with one another. Now, some of the assets may become volatile and pairing may be stopped for a period. Like for instance, Coinbase used to carry XLM, and then the SEC sued them and Coinbase stopped carrying them. But then the SEC stopped suing them, and so Coinbase starts carrying them, and then Oregon sues them. The point here is there has to be an element of responsibility as these technologies get adopted and deployed. And a treasury that is wise, that is conservative, that cares and pays attention to the details, not only can help to be the future of how digital assets can actually be managed and exchanged, but can also, I believe, set a tone or a framework for future generations to then use future technologies to actually run future systems for humanity instead of trusting in the hand of man. So I don't know if that really makes sense, but it's a very important topic to understand and realize. So good question though, really, really good question. So did this make sense, what I had actually read to you on this particular jurisdiction of the sovereignty and innovation in the digital world with a Reg D, with a C Corp or D Corp, and how, so basically what's happening is the Jobs Act is being followed, but it's being followed in the future. So I believe Dave Sachs and a couple others will, maybe Bo and others will pay attention that technology can actually help set us free and protect shareholders and replace a lot of the inefficiencies within the security governance systems like the SEC. So for instance, the SEC just overlooks the topic that I was discussing earlier around private or naked shorting. Like they say it's against the law, but they can't really prove things. And all they know is there's a lot of profits that are being taken. I would have to ask a question. Why is it that BlackRock and Vanguard and Backstreet, why is it that they literally own a majority of all stocks for any of the Fortune 500 ecosystems that are out there? So I'll just throw that nugget out there. Maybe people would care about it. One thing that's exciting that I want to go through is what we call the Deal Flow Show. And this is not a representation that I can portray or formulate, but what we can do is talk to what potentially could happen in the future. This is still something that is going to be materialized. Here in about 2 weeks, you'll start seeing the first shot of 17 different shows that are going to basically, or series that will basically go live. They're focused on different issues within humanity that are vexing humanity. Maybe it's around clean water. Maybe it's around power. That's really the future. I don't know if you paid attention to some of the patent stuff and documents that have been released over the last month, but they're proving the points that we've been talking about, energy that's free and abundant and everywhere. Some of these things that Einstein and Tesla and others were talking about years ago, it's real. This stuff is very, very real. But water and energy and 15 other things is really what this Deal Flow Show is going to focus on. But what I'd like to do is tie together a vision on how the Deal Flow Show and the digital world can actually solve the issue that Oregon State is actually raising. So I'm going to go ahead and read that now. I know that some of you may like, I don't even want to listen to this. I don't understand how this thing talks to me, but I hope maybe this is an exposure for you to be able to listen to a real-time screen reader.
The Deal Flow Show, empowering investors at every level. We're in the middle of a financial revolution. Traditional gatekeepers no longer hold all the keys, and ordinary people are discovering new ways to participate in and benefit from wealth creation. At the heart of this transformation is the Deal Flow Show, a groundbreaking platform within the digital world, designed to level the playing field between accredited and non-accredited investors, creators and supporters, the public and private sectors. This isn't Shark Tank 2.0. It's deeper, freer, and ultimately fairer. What is the Deal Flow Show? The Deal Flow Show is a curated ecosystem where high potential projects aren't just pitched, but are presented transparently and with compliance for actual investment. It's a showcase. It's a community. It's a compliant investment gateway. It's a vote for the future, literally. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a first-time investor, the Deal Flow Show gives you access to a world where ideas are funded, governed, and grown, out in the open. 2 paths, 1 platform. 1. Non-accredited investors. Most platforms close the door to non-accredited investors. The Deal Flow Show leaves it open, responsibly. Non-accredited members can watch and vote on real-world deals, earn participation rewards as stable, asset-backed digital receipts, e.g., DGOLD, access financial literacy education, prepare to become accredited investors by building actual ownership and understanding.
Now, I want to just dig into that real fast. So the first archetype or example are people that are non-accredited investors. An accredited investor is someone that makes a certain amount of money per year and someone that has a certain amount of liquid assets, like maybe $1 million in liquid assets, etc.
Yeah.
And a non-accredited investor is someone that doesn't have that, which is a majority of the world. And really, those are the ones that are forgotten and just left. It's like, I personally grew up in an environment where I saw families that could be hurt or torn apart, but at the same time come together if there's the right structure. And what I mean by that is I see moms that work many jobs and they fight to just stay afloat, especially when there's not the other part of it that's with them for whatever reason. And they struggle to say, well, how do I ever check into an environment like this where I can become an accredited investor? I work 2 jobs, I work 3 jobs, I care about a family. And the point being is exactly the question that Danielle was asking. It's like, when can I actually send my pension to something that's not going to depreciate in value? And that is what this basically talks about, is jumping into a gold-based asset, a digital receipt for a real gold-based asset. So we go back to a gold-based standard, but it's not just for gold. In my opinion, gold and silver and all this other stuff is literally not valuable to humanity. Energy, time, water, those are things that are much more valuable to humanity. But it's a measurement, a store of value that it took to pull it from the earth. Same thing with Bitcoin. And that's why people really didn't understand, well, how is it Bitcoin can be valuable? Well, it's the energy bill to come up with a hash rate or an algorithm to then get a coin. And then people want to hold on to it because they had to buy the asynchronous miner, they had to pay for the power, and so it's worth something to them. And not only that, but the speculation and all the other stuff hits in. But when we look at what's happening with the non-accredited investor environment, that's majority of the world. People are willing to say, you know what? I'll gamble and I'll play that lotto. And if I could put $10 in and possibly get $10 million, I would do that. Am I saying that that's the right thing? No. As a matter of fact, I really don't believe in gambling. I don't believe in speculation. I don't believe. There are simple truths in our lives that if we add value in certain ways, that everyone can benefit from, not just the BlackRocks or the Vanguards or the Backstreets, and not even the accredited investors, but the non-accredited investors can start understanding and getting involved with. One, everyone has an opinion and a perspective, so they can vote. So let's say that there's a deal that's focused around clean water. Let's say there's 3 different companies that are trying to get, let's say, $10 million on one of the episodes, right? Everybody can have a vote in real time. I'll show you how it actually works. I'm going to jump to what we call the Mexican. I'm getting some feedback from some of you that aren't muted, if that's okay, because everyone's hearing it all. So I'm going to jump in. So this is the Mexican country that's using identity, health, voting, finance, business, exchanges, currency, disputes. And we're going to jump into the voting side of it. So I'm actually going to go and let's say I want to pick somebody. So by the way, for those that are not aware, I'm using a Clearphone, okay? And I'm using some decentralized apps. There's 16 of them today. And I'm going to log into what's called ClearLife. And this ClearLife will get me the ability to actually cast my vote. So let's say that I really like this Marco guy. So I really think that he should be president. By the way, the reason I'm using this as an example is we're putting this into the future because when they had their last elections, 25 people were murdered, killed, dead, all within 2025, the year 2025. They were all running for president. So think about that. It's not just crazy stuff that happens in America. It's like, this is real. So I'm going to go ahead and scan this. Like anybody can scan it too, and it's all secure. So I just did 5-factor authentication. And if you watch my vote, when I click on OK, you'll see this score going up. Ready? So it jumped up. Or let's say I want to change it over to this gal here. Let's say I made a mistake and I've watched more and I really want to vote for her. If the election hasn't closed, I can go and do that. Now, I'm showing you an example, like watch, we'll go ahead and watch it shift over. She's at right now 31%. I'll go ahead and pull back out. And it just jumped up. So this is a voting that's live, cryptographically secured for one candidate for another. But imagine that tying to a business that's actually getting funding. And everyone's vote, everyone's choice matters. So you're using technology based upon a cryptographic identity. Tiffany, have you set that up by chance? You come back.
Yes,
Okay. So you've got it all set up. So you're on. Are you on your phone still? Did you log back in on your phone? You did. You got to log off on your phone and log on to your PC for this demo. Okay, she's gone now. All right, so we'll jump back into this. So I'm going to continue to have this read for the second archetype, which is accredited investor. Here we go.
Participation is meaningful, tracked via decentralized reputation, and backed by real, precious metal value. This is how we restore financial dignity. Start small, learn deeply, and build steadily. 2. Accredited investors. The Deal Flow Show offers accredited investors unique benefits. Direct, Reg D compliant access to fully digitized offerings. Participation within a sovereign jurisdiction. Transparent, on-chain ownership and verification. Voting and partnership opportunities. Automated legal templates. Compliant cap tables, and pre-vetted structures. Via DCORPs, digital, corporations, all tokens, equity, and returns are tracked transparently. Still fully aligned with U.S. regulations. The aim, no friction, no fraud, no fog, just real deals. Done right. A digital marketplace built on natural rights. The Deal Flow Show isn't just about entertainment or enriching a select few. It's about liberating wealth creation and returning it to the people, not just institutions. The principle is simple. If you were born free, you should be free to invest, free to create, free to grow wealth for your family and community. This platform is powered by Voluntary Association, Reg D offerings under the Jobs Act, and the legal sovereignty of the digital world, a beacon amid financial fog. Today, financial systems often feel abstract, exclusive, and manipulated, trapping people in cycles of debt and inflation. The Deal Flow Show is designed to break that cycle by empowering people to see clearly, enabling wise, informed voting and investing, allowing slow, steady, genuine growth, providing real ownership and generational value, not just a show, a movement. For the next billion investors and builders who don't want to gamble or be left behind, this is your platform. Whether you have $10 or $10 million, you have a path. Hold digital gold as your anchor. Vote on deals and learn as you go. Fund entrepreneurs with real-world potential. Build your trust and digital reputation. Become a stack holder in the next wave of freedom and wealth. The Deal Flow Show isn't here to entertain. It's here to activate, watch, vote, invest, build. Because you're not just the audience. You are the economy.
So I hope that you have the opportunity to actually tune in. This will be aired in Q3, Q4 of this year. And there's some beautiful things that some amazing people are working hard to get this stood up. So other questions, thoughts as we bounce off of this topic of the Deal Flow Show? Anybody? No? Okay, we'll jump to number 4 then. So this talks a little bit about really the future of finance. And I think most of you have already understood how we're putting these pieces together, but maybe this will explain a little bit more.
Gold, trust, and the future of digital receipts. Gold has always been the ultimate benchmark for trust. It's the original store of value, outlasting wars, crises, and changing empires. Yet in today's digital world, physical gold feels outdated, hard to access, slow to move, and incompatible with modern systems. Enter digital receipts backed by gold, like DGOLD in the digital world ecosystem. These digital representations blend ancient trust with modern utility, offering what fiat never could: stability, integrity, and transparency in the hands of individuals, not institutions. Now, we're seeing the rise of a new standard, where digital gold receipts unlock financial sovereignty for billions. What is a digital gold receipt? A digital gold receipt, such as DGOLD, is a cryptographically secure, verifiable certificate of ownership, fully backed by real gold in audited vaults. Hold it, transfer it, verify it on-chain, redeem it for physical gold. When you choose, you get money that honors your time, protects your future, and doesn't require trust in banks, brokers, or governments. Why trust in the dollar is fading? People see that fiat currencies are built on debt, not intrinsic value. With every round of money printing, central banks erode purchasing power and savings. Trust in paper money is vanishing, but gold is still gold. Yet, gold security has often come with limitations. Until now, digital gold receipts combine gold stability, the speed of digital transactions, transparent, decentralized record keeping. It isn't just an asset, it's a shield. How the digital world uses gold to empower everyone. In the digital world, gold becomes foundational. Every member can buy DGOLD, which is stored in real, audited vaults and tracked on-chain. DGOLD isn't a speculative token. It's tied directly to physical gold, priced transparently, and redeemable. Use cases include storing wealth, backing investments, securing loans, participating in the Deal Flow Show, accessing new features and reputation tiers. It's not about chasing profits. It's about anchoring value, a new gold standard for a digital age. Unlike fiat-backed stablecoins, DGOLD isn't built on fragile promises or leverage. It's immune to devaluation. DGOLD and similar digital receipts, silver, DPLAT, etc. form a decentralized monetary layer rooted in real-world assets.
I'm going to come back to this in the future. Hopefully this is making sense. If not, let me know. But there's a lot of structure to this, and I'll actually share all of this as well for everyone. I think you get the point here. There's other points that are important to make, whether we're talking about a D Corp and the Reg D offering and how that ties, which directly ties to what's going on with this. As a matter of fact, Oregon wouldn't have a leg to stand on if this structure was followed. So Coinbase, they wouldn't have the liability, all of it. So it literally stops all of these things from a liability standpoint. But I think everyone understands the D Corp as well as the Reg D. If not, I'll go ahead and share these. These will be posted. 2 of the 6 have been posted today. And then I'm going to read through this at the end, but we're going to jump through a couple slides and go to questions before we wrap up. Any questions or thoughts before we move on?
When did you say that the Deal Flow Show is going to start?
We're 2 weeks out right now. So
Okay, and talking about how it's going to add value to our world, is there already a lineup of people that are pitching their ideas or their businesses?
Yeah, currently there's about 20 to 30 applicants, and right now there's 4 to 5 that are selected for the first show. So there'll be 17 series, and there'll be 3 to 4 different companies that actually pitch in each of them, and then voting and other things that will tie to that. Good question, though. Okay.
That's awesome.
Next question. Somebody else?
Michael?
Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. So going back to what you explained to me before, that we'll be able to, like, for instance, I'll be able to send my pension directly into the gold exchange. Now, am I to understand that if I can do that, then my asset, my gold is not depreciating. It's at least holding its value. I mean, there's no guarantee that it won't go down, but it's at least holding its value. And then I can, will I be able to, so will there be like a debit card or some sort of system where I can, if I want, I can take some of my digital gold and, you know, load a debit card or something where I could go and spend it, you know, in a store or,
Yeah.
you know, purchase whatever I need to purchase without depleting my whole.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And first off, I would recommend not necessarily dropping all pension in, but some people will do that because they're going to be just like you, where they see the value of why go into the Canadian dollar or the US dollar when it's basically the buying power is going down. But what I'm going to show you is the ability for someone that actually gets and you don't have to be on a Clearphone to be able to do this, but with Clearphone, you have these decentralized apps, just like, Tiffany that was actually downloading the Hawaiian Life app. You basically get the ability to have one of the apps, which is actually a wallet, and it uses derived keys to build the balance. And it just so happens, if you look close, it actually says, do you see that Visa? It's all blurry, but you basically have a Visa that you can click into and you can convert assets. So you can actually exchange assets. So let's say that you want to actually change. If I push this button, you basically convert over from the digital ecosystem into the fiat ecosystem. And then you can use this wherever you want to use it. So that's a way to be able to link. It also links to a full-blown bank account with a virtual Visa and a physical Visa and a normal bank account that works in about 17 different countries. Well, 13 to 15 right now, different countries. So I hope that explains, just by example there, how that could actually work for your use case or what you were talking about. So let's say you sent in pension, let's just say $100 in pension funds, went to buy $100 in gold, and you got a digital receipt for it. And then you wanted to convert that receipt. Heavens forbid that not all the merchants in the world accept the digital receipt today. Hopefully there's a future where the digital transactions are coming, but hopefully there's a point where, one, it can be decentralized, and two, it can actually have real world asset-backed assets behind it. So did that answer your question, Danielle?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So any other questions before I move on? Okay. So some of the things that are, go ahead.
Quick question
Go ahead.
on the deal flow. So as you go around the world to present that, is that a capital raise platform that the world can accredited and non-accredited investors can invest? Or
It's a platform where accredited investors, it's a platform. Yes, it's a capital raise platform and system, but it's a focus on accredited investors that go into particular deals, but non-accredited investors that can vote on particular deals and then go and buy real world assets like gold or silver and get a digital receipt and start learning how the system works. So it's not necessarily a solicitation for non-accredited investors to raise capital, but accredited investors to do it. And that's what also helps it to be compliant with the systems, the current systems. So, but it helps people to know, because for instance, many of you have heard that Bitcoin had value 10 plus years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, but you struggle to actually figure out how to get involved in it. This show will help the world on being able to do exactly what I asked you to do, which is like go download an app, and then literally we'll show you how to actually log in and see the digital world. We'll show you how to actually get value and receive value all in real time, but all under your own private identity. So did you have a chance to get everything set up there, Tiffany, or is you struggling with that?
No, I did. I have
Okay.
the app. It's a Hawaiian DALA, Dala.
Dala, yeah, you got it. So you got all the way in. So if you want to turn on your camera on your computer and then just share the QR code that is for the Hawaiian Dala, I'll go ahead and show you how to send and receive.
You mean this one right here?
You're going to have to share your camera. Is your camera on?
My camera's on. I have to do share screen, right? Hold on.
No, just your camera. You just turn your camera on. Can anybody else see her camera? Shoot.
No, I can't see.
Well,
I can't see.
Like your camera was on before, you can just turn it on again. Once it's on, I'll go ahead and come over and transfer this to you. While we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to jump forward. So
Okay.
we went through, but when I see you, we're going to get that done. So when we went through what we just talked about with gold, I think everybody gets that. When we talk about Reg D, which follows the Jobs Act, which follows a D Corp in the digital world, which the digital world adopts the Jobs Act, I think people get that. I'm going to summarize with this document that talks about a path forward based upon a really confusing ecosystem and how it all really comes together real fast. And I know many people are just sick of probably listening to this, but if you materialize it in your head, it might make sense.
The path forward, from confusion to clarity, from control to community. For decades, we've lived in a system that promised freedom but delivered only confusion. A world of fine print, gated access, and digital systems quietly reshaping human behavior in the name of convenience. That world is coming to an end. A new era is emerging, not built on control, but on clarity, choice, and community. This is the digital world. It's more than a platform or protocol. It's a peaceful revolution. Confusion was never an accident. The financial system we inherited was never meant to empower. It was built to concentrate control by complex regulations only insiders can navigate, centralized systems that surveil, censor, and monetize you, inflationary currencies that erode your future wealth, opaque structures that bury the truth. When individuals ask questions or seek alternatives, they're branded as outsiders. Confusion isn't accidental. It's a weapon, and it's kept generations under control. Clarity is the new currency. In the digital world, we choose a new approach, starting with clear values, sovereignty over your identity, transparency in your investments, ownership of your data, your wealth, and your future are tools for this new world. DGOLD and other precious metal digital receipts to protect savings. DCORPs to democratize early-stage venture access. Decentralized reputations, replacing secretive credit scores with visible merit. Legal clarity. We use frameworks like Reg D and enhance them with on-chain transparency, immutable records, self-governing communities. This is not just clarity of process, but clarity of purpose. From control to collaborative building. Control isolates. Community liberates. Where control divides, true community unites and empowers. In the digital world, we vote together, we fund together, we build together, we rise together. Whether you're part of the Deal Flow Show, holding DGOLD, launching a DCORP, or contributing to reputation networks, you're not just another user, you're a stakeholder. This is digital citizenship redefined, not passive consumption, but active participation in a world built by and for its members. More than an upgrade, a moral imperative. If we don't reshape the system, it will reshape us. Staying in centralized ecosystems means losing the freedom to think independently, renting our identities from tech giants, sacrificing our children's future for short-term convenience, becoming enslaved, not by chains, but by algorithms and interfaces. This isn't alarmism, it's reality. But we can choose differently, and we can build differently. It starts now, with sovereign tools, compliance structures, and community-first ecosystems like the digital world. You were born free, now live free. This isn't just a trend, it's a turning point. The call is clear. Step away from confusion, reject control, choose clarity, join community. The digital world isn't just the future of finance, it's the future of freedom, and it belongs to those ready to build it, together.
That's what the digital world literally represents. No one controls it. No one owns it. Not even myself. Like literally, we're going to go through an audit with the GBA, the Global Blockchain Association, and they're going to help you to understand governance structures, sustainability, how it's actually redundant, all of those different elements from a third party standpoint. It'll be very valuable and a fun exercise as we go through it. I'm just going to go through a couple more topics. If anybody has something they want to go through, they're happy to interrupt me at any time. So this is actually some of the things that's going to happen with the Deal Flow show that's coming up. There's some details we don't want to share publicly, but it's real. Imagine something like this that pops on it. So the ability to raise, like the gal Tiffany talked about with a capital raise, Imagine if you can actually see if there's patents around this company, or if there
Nice.
are trademarks, or if there's rewards. So for instance, let's say that the company starts making a certain amount of revenue. Why can't that revenue be shared with the holders that own the actual either equity or whatever revenue is tied to that particular raise? And what if people that stay in actually get bonuses? So those are the types of structures, and we'll see not just Clear-based organizations, but many different organizations that tie to it, that maybe they're public companies, maybe they're private companies, maybe they're companies that will never have a liquidity strategy. Maybe they're doing 22 billion in revenue and can never go public, but they can actually go through an offering like this in the digital world and actually have some liquidity for other shareholders. This is a different topic, but related indirectly and directly. We need to disclose that we're in active dialogue with a potential possibility of a purchase of certain things and certain team members. We hope to be able to add them to the dialogue in the future. There's also an Anthem that has gone through an initial review stage, and we would welcome those that want to get and participate with that. Some fun stuff, some important stuff, the messaging behind it, and the motto and the a momento is key. So with that being said, no, this is some fun stuff. We don't have time for that. But other questions or thoughts or comments before we wrap up today? Feedback, criticism? Go ahead.
I got a question. So seems like digital world is quite the ecosystem. It's, I guess, bitten off a lot of stuff, it appears. I just want to go back to some of the basics. And when I'm looking at a digital a certificate for gold, my thought immediately goes to, well, what is the difference between that and just like Paxos Gold, and where I can buy, tokens that represent gold, but on the blockchain?
So I'm not familiar with the platform that you're talking about, but what I am familiar with is people that actually buy gold, and there's literally gold that's purchased for them in a particular form. It's not just gold coins of any kind of stature or bullion, but it's purchased that's actual currency and tender, which is going to have some impact in future tariff topics. And then it's held for them. So they can actually take receipt, not just a digital receipt, but they can turn their digital receipt in and actually get the physical gold sent to them, whether it's in the mail or whether it's, in the form of coins, or what I'm sharing here, which is actually like a foil dollar. So this is actually real gold. And I believe that there'll be an economy in the future, just like in the state of Utah and 7 or 8 other states that have actually adopted the law to have this type of an asset to actually be a currency or a form of currency. I can't say that it's a direct currency, but it's.
Can you share the screen, Michael, please, so people can see?
Here, sorry. Yeah. So this is a gold back, and they basically have different prints based upon each different jurisdiction or state. And so imagine that your question is really good, but it's not just getting a digital receipt. The digital and physical worlds need to come together. So what if a digital receipt can be turned into, whether it's a coin or whether it's a foil that actually is the gold? And so a monetary system that actually stands up that really ties to it. Does that answer your question and make sense?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I guess I am concerned about, and it's, if I was going to hold gold, I'd want to hold it, the physical gold, only because of rehypothecation, which we hear about a lot. And that, you might say, and I'm not saying you, but I'm saying they might say, yeah, you can go turn in your gold, but if we all did that at the same time, would the gold really be there?
I think you're talking about 2 separate topics. So the first one around holding your gold, you can do that, but how does it actually pay bills? And I would argue that many countries have actually said, including the state of Utah, and like for instance, New Zealand over a decade ago said, you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin. And many other jurisdictions have done the same thing. So you can actually make payments in a cryptographic way that is publicly seen, but the individual's identity needs to be private. And what they're doing is there's a void within technology where digital assets are being used, but they will be used with the combination of the individual's identity, the transaction, and artificial intelligence to actually enslave and control. So that's on one side of it. If you said, well, you know what, I just want to hold the gold, then how does that actually scale from a consumption standpoint? Why? Because you could make massive real-time payments, which in the digital system, which is currently what everything is running on, electronic money that will go to digital money that's cryptographically backed. But it's that fine line. So, your point around everybody basically calling the gold or making it illegal to hold gold, those are topics that I would argue. For instance, if you look at what's happening in China, China is an environment that the citizens are being controlled. The people of China are amazing. The control in government of China is not. And when we back into really what we're talking about, people cannot get out of the Chinese financial system, the monetary system, very easily, but they can buy gold and they can buy digital representations of gold. And then if they can take receipt of it at any time, imagine a future where connecting gold, like what we were talking about, where I don't know how far up it was, but we talked about how you can actually see the connection between the objective for the digital world is to connect the physical and digital together through decentralization. And so, for instance, here in Utah, somebody's typing crazy. Here in Utah, we have $140 million worth of gold coins that are actually used as tender. So that's really the positioning that we're going after.
We can't hear.
You can't hear me? So does that make sense?
No, you're cutting out.
Well,
Yeah, so it does, and I don't want to hold the physical gold either, 'cause of what you mentioned. But I guess I'm just trying to figure out. There's lots of ways you can buy digital gold, if you will, and that's one thing. What makes digital world sort of different than the other options to do, buying certificates. And then the last thing would be Bitcoin. It's like, why don't I just buy Bitcoin, hold it in my own wallet?
you can. But when we look at look at the physical gold or look at Bitcoin, does it actually tie to you as an individual? I would argue that it doesn't. Someone could come into your house and steal your gold. Someone could actually come and steal your encryption key for your Bitcoin. Inside of a digital wallet that's tied to the Clear Life or Vanuatu Life or Digital Life or any of these applications, just like Tiffany just downloaded an app, it actually tied it to her physically. It tied it to her face, her fingers, and she's got the keys. But if someone else stole the keys, they couldn't do anything with them. So that's one of the massive differences between the digital world that's focused on identity first and ownership with derived keys, where machine learning and artificial intelligence can't follow it. So that's the big difference. And many people make
that makes sense.
Okay. I'm glad that you're starting to see it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Go ahead. Tiffany,
I also like the fact that, once you have the asset in your own digital wallet, and the transaction that you can just basically transact across the world, and it's all private, individual or entities to entities, and it doesn't go through the financial institutions and in different countries and different government to get to the other side.
You just hit it right on the head. And I wish you could. Are you able to share your screen so I can send you some and show everybody how it all works?
Yes, I can share my screen. I just, let me see. I have the, here we go. There's the, I took a picture. Can you scan that code?
I can't necessarily see, let's see, are you sharing your screen? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
So
You see my screen?
if you want, what you can do is just, if you don't want to turn on your camera, I can't see I can see that you're sharing your screen, but I can't see your screen. But what you could do is just drop in your public key for that particular asset. And then I can go ahead and send it over to you.
Yeah, I can do that. Let me see. Let me go look for.
While she's doing that, does anybody else have any questions or topics? Or one of the big things we look for in these meetings is counsel. We look for criticism. We look for negative, just like Mr. Cowboy, he really asked really good questions. And that's when people can start understanding and half the life, especially with AI, it's like, what's the question? And so, feel free to question any of this, please. It's important for you to understand for yourself why this is different and why this is important. So I'm not seeing your screen or your key.
I'm trying to look at the public key, but it doesn't, do I go into settings to get the public key? Because it says.
No, okay, so what you would do is you would just click on it and say, click on Hawaiian Dala and then say receive. And then
receive, got it.
There you go. And then I was hoping that you would just share it through your camera and I could just scan it. But if you want to do it a different way, that's fine too. So
I'll put the public key and I'll post it on the chat. How's that?
Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll copy it from one application to another application and then send it over to a device and then send it on out. And if you want, which actually I wish you could share your screen. It would be so cool because then we could show everybody how you can log into the digital world, into the Hawaiian Kingdom, into your wallet and see the transaction in real time. So
Her camera's on now.
Are you seeing her?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not seeing it.
no, I'm not either.
Oh,
Really?
That's weird.
No.
Yeah, my camera's on. I see me on the group.
I'm going to turn mine off and see if that. Yeah, I don't see it. Dang it.
Yeah, I can see Tiffany as well.
Oh, you can. I see a red button next to it that says the connection is non-optional or non-optimal.
Maybe because you're screen sharing that you can't see.
Are you coming out of Europe?
No, I'm in San Diego, California.
It says Europe. Maybe that's not you. Well, I appreciate you all. Let's see if your video pops on. I'll play a video, and if we can, we'll just play the video, and if we can see your video at the end of it, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So this is over the Clear Companies. The Clear Companies focuses on building the decentralized systems and then enabling other companies to use this platform of the digital world, which no one owns, no one controls, but we can all benefit from. So I hope you enjoy the report out tonight, the council, and that you can get more involved. We need more people involved. Take one more shot and see if we've got video, which we don't. No screen share, and maybe we got the key here. Perfect. Okay, so you can see if she was in my contacts, I wouldn't even need a key. As a matter of fact, contacts actually hide these different environments. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and send over a message to myself so that, let's see here.
I can't see your screen, Michael. Can anybody else see him?
No,
Yes. You're saying you can't see me?
I can see the presentation.
Yeah, we can't see you, Michael.
That's okay. You don't, what I'll do is I will just, I'll grab that key. I'm going from device to device. So this is probably one of the most complex use cases, but I'm going to go from one platform to another. I'm going to open up a wallet. I'm going to find the digital asset that's called Dala. I'm going to go ahead and send it. I'm going to go ahead and add in her address. I'm going to put 100 in. This is equal to US dollars. I'm going to put my fingerprint on it. Then I'm going to count to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7. For those of you that don't see, I'm going to go ahead and, so you should see that it transferred here. And then Tiffany, on your side, can you confirm that
Yes.
you received it? Can you repeat?
Let me see.
If you just click on that.
Yay, I just got 100. Let me hold on.
So think about it, Tiffany. What you just experienced is what you were just talking about.
See it?
But I wish we could see your screen. I wish. By the way, one of the things we'll be developing is, and we've already developed it years ago, but on the same types of technology, which originally came out with Google Hangouts, it's a Zoom replacement. And so it'll be integrated into the future platforms that we'll talk a lot about. But basically, imagine if a company called Clear Software combined most of the different apps that we all use and use decentralized identity and decentralized payments to bring this to the world. Remember what Facebook tried to do with Libra? That was just on the payment side. The problem is it was centralized identity. With the digital world, everything changes. All of the apps become very, very real and very private. And that's how the future should work, where we as individuals don't have to prove who we are, but we can order a pizza, we can order a car, we can pay for a house, we can do the basic things that humanity really does every day. And I would argue it's not just about a home or a car. It's about family and life and how we can get back to focusing on things that are important in life instead of being a part of a cog in a wheel or a slave or in a system that actually controls us. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. We'll see you next Tuesday. And as you know, if you want to get involved, go to, we're getting some feedback, but go to Digital World and then click on councils. And if you want to get involved, download one of the Life apps and literally just select which council you want to be involved in. Maybe it's the Responsibility Council. Just click join. So thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I did get the 100 and it's in the app, Michael.
Awesome. Welcome to the digital world. You've actually joined it through the
Yeah.
Hawaiian Kingdom.
Awesome.
Much
I'm
love.
gonna,
Mahalo.
if you, how do I put in chat my contact info, Michael. You can just reach out to me offline. That'd be great.
Okay.